Now, one of your comments on a recent video made me think that there's one essential skill that often jazz guitarists skip and instead get lost in scales and arpeggios. And that skill is simply being able to take a melody and being able to vary it. Take this familiar standard All of Me and I might play it like this. So what am I doing here? I'm playing the melody, but not exactly, because I'm putting a lot of variation in. And in this video, I'll share with you 10 ways in which you can learn to vary the melody. Get this down and it will give your melodies that edge that you've been missing. Let's get into it. Now, you can't vary something you don't know, so the first thing is you need to know it deeply. Let's take the first 8 bars of All of Me, just break this down into phrases. We've got the opening phrase, which is responded by... and the next phrase, which is responded by... very familiar song, I would think, to most of you, if not all of you. Now, my jazz guitar curriculum and lessons I do, it's all underpinned by this way of thinking about things. And this is about knowing things deeply and being able to do things musically and express yourself. And the first thing is being able to audiate. You should be able to hear that melody in your head. You should be able to hum or sing it. It's not just something your fingers know from muscle memory. Now, that starts with listening. Listen to the song a lot so you internalize the melody, and instead you know it off by heart, by the sound. Next, to get it down, navigate it. Find it on the fretboard, know where to play it, be able to play it in time. And in the end, you won't want to need a lead sheet. You want to memorize it. In step 3, create. Where you want to get to. You want to learn to musically express All of Me or whatever melody you're playing in your own way. That's where you have a bit of fun with it and experiment with it. To some, memorization seems unnecessary when you've got real books. To me, it's essential. Step 1 is the simplest form of variation, and that's to learn to articulate it in your own way. The real book doesn't indicate dynamics, very often doesn't have accents and things on like that, so you have to think about how you're going to do that yourself. And to play expressively, you then get into the nuance of how each note is played. For instance, you might accent certain notes, say the highest note in a phrase. You might use fretboard techniques like slides, hammer-ons and pull-offs to add articulation, to soften some notes and to emphasize others. You'll move beyond playing everything at one volume. You might look at a phrase where you get gradually louder, gradually softer, so crescendo, decrescendo. Now here's the opening 8 bars in which I include some of those things. Step 2 is rhythmic displacement. That's a fancy way for, say, sort of shifting the rhythm around of the phrases. And, the lead sheets are often written with really square rhythms. Like, if you look at something like Fly Me to the Moon, it will often be written just fly me to the, like all quarter notes, all on the beat. No one's going to sing it like that, and hopefully no one's going to play it like that. And simple things you can do. Say, take this first phrase of All of Me. Instead of coming in on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1... you maybe move that to the and of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and. Shifting that note slightly earlier gives this nice sense of forward momentum, takes away the square edges of the bar lines. I can't show you every possibility in this video because it's gone forever, but you could, of course, start that later. You could come in on the and of 1, experiment. Here's the first 8 bars again, with a couple bits where I've just shifted things slightly earlier. To do that requires a good sense of time, connection with the pulse, so that will depend upon your rhythmic ability. But it's simple and very effective. Step 3, octave displacement. This is a simple but very powerful technique, and it's where you change the octave, either up or down, of a note or multiple notes within a phrase. Take the opening phrase it finishes on an E going down, right? The melody's going down. What if I move that E? A really stupid one. That would be very silly, but I like this one. It just suddenly adds, it still sounds like All of Me, but it sounds fresher. Here's the opening 8 with a few examples of octave displacement. If you're new to octave displacement, it's a really cool way to just freshen things up. Take the C major scale. Right, the last 3 notes, A, B, C, I'm going to play them an octave lower. Look, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C versus C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Look. I'm still playing the notes in order, but just I'm changing octave as I see fit. Let's say if I was doing the scale down, I'm going to change the last 3 notes to a higher octave. So instead of going, I'm going octave displacement here. Take a C major 7 arpeggio instead of going. Maybe I go change the octave of the last note. That's a very useful thing to know. Step 4, melodic displacement. I don't think that's really a term people use, it's just something I like to use. And it's where you might keep some bits of the melody fairly typical to how they are, but then go into a point of variation, complete variation as well. So you might go All of Me, da da da, da ba da, then go off on one for a few bars, then come back to the melody. So you play some bits of the melody very faithfully, other bits you improvise. And if you ever get stuck playing and you forget a section, then you go into melodic misplacement and then come backward to the bits you do know. That can be really helpful if your memory fails you. Step 5, lead-ins and chromatics. If you really know the melody, then you can add lead-ins before the melody starts. So if the melody starts like this, before that you could put something like 1, 2, 3, like that. 1, 2, 3. There I did a chromatic downward thing. Or something chromatic going up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just one chromatic approach note I did there. You get the idea. I'm just preempting the familiar bit of the melody with a lead-in to, again, take away the square edges of it. Here's an example of that. Things I'm using to do that. Say this first note, C, I could use a chromatic approach note from below, so go B to C. Or maybe D flat to C, like that. That would be chromaticism. I could use scale note. Scale note below would still be a B. But what if I went A, B, C? So like from the C major scale, 1, 2, 3. What if I went G, A, B, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and da, da, da. What if I went from above, E, D, C, 1, 2, 3. That kind of idea. I could go D, D flat, C, 1, 2, 3. So that's like a scale note and a chromatic. Now, to do this, you obviously have to know where the melody is, of course. You have to know about chromaticism and scale notes and things like that. But you have to be rhythmically intentional. You have to know where your lead-in is going to come in. Otherwise, you'll just get lost and out of sync with the track. Step 6, leave-outs. Now, sometimes less is definitely more. And something you can do is just keep the headline bits of the melody and remove the kind of bits that you don't feel are as important. Hopefully you still recognise that as All of Me. I think it maybe suits certain tempos better, maybe certain instruments. But the idea is the audience should still hear that it's All of Me, but some of the fillers may be taken away. Step 7, echo the melody. Many melodies have built-in space, and you can use that space to do like call and response. So if we thought of the first phrase as a call, then I could respond to that, and I could simply go, there I'm playing the same notes an octave lower. and then there's like a conversation with the melody. Now the answer to the call could be the same phrase in a different place, different octave, slight variation of it, but it's just trying to converse with the melody. Here's an example of that. I like using that on like the last time through the tune at the end of a form because it gives it some development and it gives it some kind of like legs at the end of a performance of a song at a gig. Step 8, interval upgrade. Now, where you can add more depth to a melody is going for richer intervals, particularly with the headline notes of a phrase, like the ones the phrase resolves to. Take the opening phrase of All of Me, it finishes on an E. That's the third of a C chord. What if we went to the ninth? The second or the ninth? You suddenly got this slightly kind of more obscure, maybe more slightly interesting way to play that first phrase. I could maybe try a 6 or 13. Major 7. There would be other options, of course, and on dominance you'd have more kind of outside options as well. Here's an example of that. Now that's something I use sparingly. I think, you keep the headline bits of the melody, change up the odd interval, it adds a bit of spice, but you're not trying to rewrite the recipe, if you like. Step 9, the mega interval upgrade. This one's maybe not so common, but I do use it from time to time. That's where you shift the whole melody up. You could often done in a third. So you shift up the melody, instead of starting on a C, you go up by a third, you go to E, and you move the whole thing up. It's still recognisable, but it's like, oh, it's a slightly different flavour of All of Me. Step 10, put it all together. Now in these examples, I've been kind of unnaturally showcasing a particular thing, whereas in my own playing, I will naturally just put these things together, maybe not always all together, maybe just use certain examples of these techniques when I play a melody of a song. All of these techniques, these methods, are just a toolkit of a way that I can express a melody. And therefore, each time I go and play a melody, it will be different. And eventually you stop thinking about melodic variation and you just do it in the moment. And that's the goal with this, really, just to take it to that point of unconscious competence where you just play the melody freely. It still sounds like whatever song you're playing, but it's just your interpretation of it on that given day. And I would add maybe something like Donna Lee, some of those complex bebop melodies. This lesson doesn't apply to that, but to the kind of more lyrical standards, the majority of songs, it does. So how do you get there? You can take my steps today, but I'd encourage you just to work on like one of those elements. Don't try and do it all, just pick one of them and have a go with it, with a melody you know well. Remember that this is all hinged upon your really solid and deep knowledge of the melody, so that's the place to start. And just to share with you, how did I learn to do this? I think I learned to do this a lot through performing live and forgetting melodies and having to vary them on the fly through necessity. But I really think these techniques came to me through listening and trying to imitate the way that I heard greats do on recordings. And my hope is by pointing out some of these things, you'll recognise them when you listen to recordings. If you'd like to learn more with me, then do check out my Patreon page that's linked in the description, as is my guide to learning jazz standards in 7 steps. Now, I put on the screen my video about learning repertoire, because I think that's such an important thing. Thanks for tuning in. Please leave a comment on this video if you enjoyed it, if you've got any questions. Until next time, you take care.